Well, thank you guys so much. I was reading the comments in the waiting room, and I'm glad everyone is here with me tonight. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Tennessee Brando Show. This is my first show back since I went out and visited California. First time seeing that, so I could start off, I guess, by telling you all about that. That was definitely a trip, and along the way, I picked up this little baby Buddha I found at a cool shop. And shout out to my good friends Kim and Alan. Um, we had a great time, man. Got to see, flew into Sacramento, and then I got to see the town of Pollock Pines and Placerville. I hope I'm saying that right. Got to see that and hang out there. Then got to go down to San Francisco and hang out on Haight Street, and went to the Fillmore West and saw Brittany Howard. It was always on the bucket list to see a show at the Fillmore because all the music I've ever loved came out of that room. And then we went to the Golden Gate Bridge. That was a trip and a half to see. And then went up to Lake Tahoe. So I saw a whole lot of it while I was there. And it was a really good time. And so I decided today, usually I've got the traditional Buddha that I've had for so long sitting at the table with me. But today I decided the little baby Buddha from California was going to get to be here and hang out with us. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. There's plenty to talk about. Yeah, I did see Jimi Hendrix's house. That was cool. I saw Janis Joplin's and the Grateful Dead. Super cool to see those places. Um, and to go to a show at the Fillmore West, there's so many great albums was made there. It was really good to be there. And so I really want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. There's a whole lot to talk about, man. It's like the world is it's completely gone crazy. I mean, we've entered into the Trump trial, and I was talking to a friend of mine earlier. We were talking about how that, Trump is complaining about being cold in the courtroom. And, this is so comical to me because this is the guy who appeals to guys who tries to be so macho and over the top, and then he's cold in the courtroom. He's freezing to death, he says. And he thinks it's a plot. He thinks that they're doing it on purpose to get him to make it hard on him. And what's so comical to me is for you to believe that, then you have to believe that the judge, the jury, and everybody sitting there are all in on this together, and they're sitting there freezing to death too, just to get at him. And so that's just so comical to me that he's out there talking about he's too cold. It's very cold. He wants everybody to feel so sorry for him. It's all just one big witch hunt. And it's funny because people don't realize, I was talking about this in the video that I'm going to release tomorrow. So you're getting a sneak peek at this. But I was talking about how that, 1 minute Trump will say it's all a witch hunt. They're just trying to get him. It's all fake. He'll say, I did nothing wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. They're just out to get me. And in the next breath, he will say, a president has to have immunity. Well, the only way you need immunity is if you've done something wrong. That's the only reason you need immunity. And you don't have to watch a Breaking Bad or Sons of Anarchy episode to learn that. You ask for immunity when you've done something wrong. And so people don't even see the contradictions there. And if the guy is asking for immunity, and the same guy asking for immunity is also saying he would like to be dictator on day one, if he wants immunity for everything he's ever done and gets a free pass for everything, what's to make us believe that we would ever have an election again? What's to make us believe that he would ever, turn democracy back over to us if he had the dictatorship for one day? It's ridiculous. But that's where we're at, and he's out there wanting immunity and at the same time saying he done nothing wrong, and his followers don't get the contradiction. And that's the part I don't understand. It's like it's a blatant contradiction. I don't mean to sound like condescending when I say this, but I'm just not that gullible. Like I'm not that. When someone's talking to me, I hold them to a certain standard, and I expect them to stay within a certain standard. And if they have a certain belief, that's cool. You can believe what you want to, but at least stay there. Don't be all over the place because I'm going to catch it. That's one of the biggest reasons why that I walked away from church is because I actually read the Bible for myself, and I noticed how the ministers was cherry picking it. Once I sat there, if you ever sat along with one, you'll see them cherry pick all over the place, and you'll see them go off script, and you'll see them jump the shark. And when you do, why sit there and entertain it? So, yeah, he definitely has mastered the art of the grift. One guy said that if grifting was an art, then he'd be Picasso. That's really the only thing that he's got good at is grifting and conning people. But if he's standing up there being Mr. Tough Guy, I'm the toughest guy in the room, and everybody's getting excited about that, like, oh yeah, man, he's tough, he's working for us. Then he's complaining about being cold, and he's, could potentially go to jail. When I was out in California, I didn't do the tour. Probably will the next time I go back, but I got to see Alcatraz. And I'm standing there looking out at it, and I'm like, dang, just the thought of going to prison makes me claustrophobic, just thinking about it's dreadful as hell. Well, when you're standing there looking over at Alcatraz, you realize that, like, man, that's a long haul over there in a boat, And then when you get at the Golden Gate Bridge from that angle, at Fort Point, when you're looking from that angle and you see Alcatraz here and then San Francisco over here, I mean, it would be absolute hell to be in that prison on that island where you couldn't escape. And then you're looking out at the beautiful city of San Francisco, and that could be your life, but you're stuck there. And so, I mean, you've got a guy that could go, I don't think he's going to go to jail personally, but you got a guy that could go to jail. He's complaining about it being cold in the courtroom. And I'm like, go tell that to the inmates at Brushy Mountain when they were, go tell that to the inmates of Alcatraz that you was cold in the courtroom. If a guy came to prison and complained about being cold in the courtroom, he would probably, he wouldn't last long. He'd be like the guy on Shawshank Redemption, the very first guy that's like, I don't belong here. That would be Donald Trump. It'd be like, it's too cold. So, yeah, that's definitely where we would be. But I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Yeah, Trump for Alcatraz. That would be. I thought about him, honestly. I can't lie. I did think about him making a little boat ride over there, and definitely if I go back, and when I go back, I won't say if, when I go back, I definitely want to check out Alcatraz and do the tour. But yeah, I still haven't toured Brushy Mountain here in Tennessee. I know a lot of people have, and it's literally just right down the road. It's not far, but that's one of my things I'm very guilty of, honestly, folks. I'm guilty of not going to events in my own hometown, like in my own, like visiting the sites, because I see them every day. So, I was thinking about, I was like, okay, if my friends from California comes out to visit me, yeah, there's all kinds of cool shit I could show them, and I could explain to them what it is. But you just kind of take it for granted when you're home. You don't really think about it. I drive through the town of Cumberland Gap every day. I really don't think a whole lot about it until I start telling people about our history, and then it's cool. But yeah, we definitely need a Trump prison song for sure. But I do have one song here I was going to play for you guys. I wrote it a while back when Jimmy Kimmel did a bit about Trump stinking in the courtroom. Apparently, he's got a pretty foul odor, and I wrote this song about a month ago, and now it's kind of resurfaced. Not only is he falling asleep in the courtroom, but he's also apparently farting. And Ben Meiselas had one of the funniest, it was unintentionally funny. I don't think he necessarily meant for it to be funny, but I used that clip in one of my videos talking about it. And as I'm editing the clips, hearing what he was saying, I couldn't help but crack up because, again, here's this guy that's supposed to be this macho dude that accuses his opponent of being asleep, and accuses his opponent of not knowing where he is. And there's a big part of me, he's complaining about being cold, he's falling asleep, and he's farting. And it's like, it kind of reminds me of the movie The People versus Larry Flint, where Larry Flint came into the courtroom with a diaper on and with an American flag for a diaper. It's like, it's got that kind of vibe to it. Although I would probably, speak higher of Larry Flint than I would ever speak of Donald Trump. But still, it's like, it just has that vibe of just an agitator, just somebody. It's like, okay, I'm sure I've heard all along that he's got this putrid body odor, but it's like, I could just so see him being that kind of guy. And that kind of temperament. I mean, I never thought I would live in a country where that kind of temperament would be acceptable. So, a month or so ago, I wrote this tune, and now that Ben Meiselas has covered it again, we're right back talking about Trump's putrid odor. And so, yeah, I call this one Downwind to Donnie. Downwind to Donnie, there's a hell of a stench, smelling like ketchup and rotten armpits. From the sound of his diaper, he done took a shit. Downwind to Donnie, there's a hell of a stench. He claims to weigh in at 215, Yet he's the biggest slob that we ever have seen. Says he's a perfect specimen, he never gets sick. It's been 20 years and he still ain't seen his dick. Get downwind of Donnie, there's a hell of a stench, smelling like ketchup and rotten armpits. From the sound of his diaper, he done took a shit. Downwind of Donnie, there's a hell of a stench. Yeah, downwind of Donnie, there's a hell of a stench. Anyway, thank you guys for that one. You know, I heard Joe Walsh one time say he went to play Rocky Mountain Way, and he said, if I knew I was going to have to sing this song for 40 years, I'd have wrote something else. And you know, a lot of times when you write a song, you never know what you're going to get stuck with. So, you know, I always think about my mom when I write a song like that, because she's got to go to the grocery store and she's got to bump into people. It's like, yeah, I saw that song Brandon wrote about Trump a farting. You know, it's like so. But the songs write themselves. You know, I've had so many people ask me, they'll say, you know, Brando, how do you write songs about it? And I'm like, I just sit back with my pen and they happen. I mean, they come to me. I don't have to go anywhere for them, you know. The songs are right there in front of you. And the great Patterson Hood from my favorite band, the Drive-By Truckers, one time said you're always supposed to keep your antenna up and you're supposed to be ready to grab the songs. Now, Patterson writes some very, you know, heartfelt, just great pieces. But I think, you know, you got to have your antenna up for satire as well, and be ready to, you know, and that song. Also, one thing that inspired that song there was James Carville. He did a video talking about Trump stinking too, and in it he referenced the movie Animal House, where the guy stands up and says, "What we need here is ridicule." Like, you know, the guy says that's what we're going to have to do with this. That's how we're going to have to combat this. Is we're going to have to ridicule the other side. And I think he's got a point. I think at this point, you know I love Michelle Obama, not knocking her, love her, you know, miss her. But the whole, when, you know, they go low, we go high, it's like you can't go high with people like that. They don't have the ability to go high. The only thing they can do is go low. And the only thing they really understand, if you stop and think about it, the only thing they really understand is ridicule. Their whole platform is built on cruelty and anger and resentment and bitterness. That's the whole base. And so, I mean, I know that obviously that song there would piss off a right winger. That song would piss off a Trump supporter, but they would listen to it. They'll hear it, and then they can't unhear it. And then they're going to be mad at that dude in the bandana that wrote it. That son of a bitch, why did he say that for? But at least I made them think. At least I stopped them in their tracks. Because if I'd have just sat there and, you know, it's my grandmother used to say, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that's kind of it. You know, I could have sat there and just let that. You know, I've had a lot of people too, you know, over the years I've written songs. People say, you sure you wanted to write that? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And I can live with it, and I can own it. And I'll be the guy that wrote Downwind of Donnie, and I'm okay with it. You know, I'll die on that hill, you know, because that dude's done nothing but ridicule, you know, innocent people. That dude's done nothing but be cruel to innocent people. His whole platform is built on hatred and resentment, and so fuck him, you know. I mean, you know, I don't feel bad for writing that about him. And there's some people say, well, you know, you called him a slob. He is. I mean, did you see the little video of his hair flopping up in the air? It's like, come on, man. You know, like you can't, if you're going to be the bully, then prepare to get bullied back. You know, I've always made this analogy. Everybody couldn't figure out, you know, to this day, Buster Douglas knocking out Mike Tyson's one of the biggest upsets in history, in sports history. It's still to this day considered one of the biggest upsets. Well, the reason it happened is because Buster Douglas had just lost his mother, and he was heartbroken, and Mike Tyson really couldn't hurt him any further. And he went out there, and instead of running from Mike Tyson like most people did, because most people thought, well, if I run from him, then he won't have no power. But he had so much speed that he would catch him anyway. They couldn't run from him, so Buster Douglas showed that you just got to get right up in his face, stand right on top of him, and not back down, and give it back to him. And when he hits you, just hit back, you know. That's how we got to combat this. You know, you can't set back on the ropes and rope-a-dope these people, because they're not going to get tired. They enjoy that. They enjoy that. So yeah, Downwind of Donnie, there's a hell of a stench. You know, if they get mad, they get mad. I mean, you know, I didn't sit here and, you know, mock handicapped people. I didn't sit here and brag about groping women. You know, I didn't do all those things. So, you know, yeah, I'll be the guy that wrote that song. You know, it's like no problem. Um, but yeah, there's like I said, there's a whole lot going on, and there's a whole lot going on here in Tennessee. I mean, I know this is kind of a weird transition and kind of a shift from something funny to something dead serious, but man, here in Tennessee, the fascism is just full on display. They've now passed a bill that will arm teachers. That's been their answer to gun violence, and it's just insane to me. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I've got two kids still in school, and I got a grandson that's fixing to start, and they'll all be going here in Tennessee. And there is just so many flaws to that argument. There's so many flaws. First of all, first and foremost, the biggest flaw to me is that a teacher shouldn't have that added responsibility. They should be able to do their job without having to be that guy or that woman. It's ridiculous to put them in, and the teachers aren't wanting this. But to me, it just opens the door for so much shit to go wrong. And it's been pretty painful to watch. I've got a video coming out tomorrow talking about Justin Jones, who's one of the Tennessee Three. He talks about the way he's been treated. I can't wait for you guys to see that whole video that I did because he talks about how he's treated here and how they talk to him, how they talk down to him. And I swear, when you listen to him talk about how he's treated every day in the Tennessee legislature, it just reads like a really bad movie. Like you see those movies made years ago, and there's like this really over the top, Southern racist dude in the movie. And I'll be honest with you, back when I was younger, I was a little bit naive, and I thought, oh, I don't see people talking like that. There was a time, maybe 15, 20 years ago, where I would have defended, if I saw a movie like that, I go, oh, come on, like that. I've never heard people talk that way. But once Trump came along and empowered them to say it all out loud, now they say it out loud. And I mean, the Tennessee here, Bill Lee and Cameron Sexton and Marsha Blackburn, Tim Burchett, all those people, they just say it all out loud. They don't pull punches, and it just sounds like an over-the-top racist character on a movie. I mean, it really does, and it's just something that's it's going to be so hard for us to combat that here in Tennessee. But we just got to keep standing up. And in the words of Justin Jones, we just got to keep speaking truth to power. And one of my favorite quotes from Justin Jones is when he says, we have to move away from the audacity of hope and move towards the hope for audacity. We really have to hope that more people gets the audacity to stand up against this. And so, it's really rough here in Tennessee, seeing that happen, seeing that be their answer. It's just been, I've said several times, it gets harder and harder to tell people, y'all come back and see us. It's like, sometimes I say to myself, man, I can't blame anyone if they just kept driving. But, there's a whole lot of good people here in Tennessee. Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, Gloria Johnson. There are three of them. They're the Tennessee Three, and there's more. There's a whole lot more people that are fighting the good fight and trying to stand up for everybody, and we have to stand up for them. So on that note, I'll play you this tune that I wrote back last year when the Tennessee Three first rose to fame. Jones and Pearson was expelled from the chamber. They didn't expel Gloria, but they didn't let her talk either. So there was that. And at the time, I had got on this kick of writing the satirical tunes, and everything was funny, like Downwind to Donnie, And right in the middle of that hailstorm, of me just writing all these satirical tunes, I said, well, now I just got to stop and get serious. And that's the thing, I had written serious songs my whole life. I have a whole catalog of them. I just got off on that kick of doing the satire for a while, and decided that, when I saw them get expelled and saw how they were treated, I said, man, it's time to get serious. We got to get back to writing a serious tune. So it's a shame, I'll be honest with you, before I play this song. It's a shame that this song is still relevant. Like, we should have fixed it, and we should have moved past it, and we shouldn't have to be still saying this, but we do. We have to stand tall, and we have to stand with the Tennessee Three and all the good people here in Tennessee that's fighting against the batshit insanity. They said right out loud, we ain't gonna fix it. We better get used to the blood. We took to the streets to raise up our voices. For too long enough was enough. The fascists moved quickly to silence the noise, distract so no one could see. We can't let them fall, we gotta walk tall and stand with the Tennessee Three. You wanna talk save the children? Well, here's an idea. Keep them safe in their schools. No military weapons out on the street in the hand of just any old fool. If we want to see our babies prosper and grow up in this land we call free, then we cannot back down, stay strong on this ground, and stand with the Tennessee Three. No time for vague outrage, no time for culture wars. Our children are dying and we're tired of trying to reason with the lobbying whores. Blood on your hands will long be remembered for generations to see. But they'll remember a time we couldn't turn a blind eye and we stood with the Tennessee Three. Yeah, we cannot back down, stay strong on this ground and stand with the Tennessee Three. All right. Thank you guys so much. One thing about, I've always said one thing about doing like live streams, it's a little bit different, when you're used to playing songs in front of an audience, you're hearing like, yay, and so now you just have to look at the comments and see the hand claps coming in. So we got the virtual hand claps going. So thank you. I really appreciate you guys. And yeah, man, it's rough here in Tennessee with all the fascism on full display. They're not even, they're not holding back anymore. They're just going for it. Again, I really believe that Donald Trump is the one that empowered all of it. I think, you just see guys now, and especially here in Tennessee, man, they just go for it. There was one guy, I don't remember his name, some congressman from Memphis, I think, who made a comment about working hard as an ugly stripper or something. I mean, they just go for it, and it's like, hey, what? And Tim Burchett, man, God, I can't even talk about that dude because he's just such a Beavis, and he kind of looks like Beavis. He's just which that's an insult to Beavis, but it's just, he gets up there and talks about how that him and Matt Gaetz was like trying to stall Joe Biden's entrance into the State of the Union. He's like, yeah, Matt Gaetz was like, hey, Burchett, see if you can't style him. So I started telling him about a pickup truck I once had. And it's just so over the top ridiculous, It's like, God, what a moron, And you're just surrounded by him here. But again, you just got to keep fighting the good fight. Here's another tune while we're on the subject of Tennessee, and we'll move along. But I wrote this song back last year when, Republicans and conservatives was just going after drag queens. And I'm sure, we got Pride Month right around the corner. So, they're going to come out in full swing again. And that's going to be something they're going to be talking about. But the funny part about it is Bill Lee here on my shirt. This shirt was made from a website called BillLeeIsADrag.com. This is Bill Lee in drag years ago, back when he was in, I think, college or whatever. So, yeah, the guy, had no problem with it then. But now suddenly, it's the end of the world. The drag queens are just going to bust into your trailer park and take over. It's like, it's so ridiculous that the things that they worry about happening here that is never going to happen here. It's not. Like, in these little small towns we live in, this stuff ain't happening. You're seeing it on the TV. Jesse Waters on Fox News is telling you about it. Your minister's probably telling you about it, and it ain't happening. You might have one, gay or trans person around you that will openly, be open about it. And that's the only person you see, and you think that it's just somehow going to just take over. It's so ridiculous that they believe that this is all out to get them and their way of life, and they don't see the hypocrisy that they're going after other people's ways of life just because they don't agree with it. So this is actually the first satirical type tune that I wrote, and it kind of got the ball rolling on me writing the satirical tunes. It kind of got it rolling for me because I was like, I immediately, when they showed this picture of him in drag, and then when they asked him about it, he got mad. I mean, Bill Lee got really pissed when they asked him about that. That was what a sick question or whatever it was he said. And I was like, oh, are you annoyed? Did we get under your skin? Because if so, here's the song. The governor says I should be afraid of the latest boogeymen. They're all wearing dresses and reading books to the kids. But he's okay with my children having active shooter drills. And he's never said a word about what the priests have done for real. Yeah, Tennessee is home to me, but I do have to admit it's getting a whole lot harder to say y'all come again. 'Cause everywhere I turn, a redneck waves some hateful rag. And it's the blind leading the blind, 'cause old Billy, he's a drag. The good old boys dug hair bands back in Clam Rock ruled the day. They wore spandex and their high heels, and now they're all afraid. And I hear tell the governor used to dress in women's clothes. Go ask him about it and just watch his head explode. Yeah, Tennessee is home to me, but these sure are strange times. I never thought I'd see the day when being homeless was a crime. And those hypocrites out screaming that their God hates facts. And it's the blind leading the blind, 'cause old Billy, he's a drag. Yeah, it's the blind leading the blind, 'cause old Billy, he's a drag. And I was cracking up during that song because it's been a while since I played this guitar. It's been sitting in the corner. And I could hear plain as day that my G string, no pun intended, was out of tune. And so I knew it, but there wasn't nothing I could do about it. There it is. So anyway, I got to thinking about this video. I got to thinking about this video of Neil Young, and it's on YouTube somewhere. But so anyway, Neil Young's up there, and he's playing Powderfinger. I'd play it for you, but I'd get a copyright claim, so I can't do that. But anyway, he's up there playing Powderfinger, and his guitar is badly out of tune. And so he tunes it. He stands there and takes his time and tunes it. Then he just hits a big G chord like, and it's still just badly out of tune. And he goes, perfect. And so anytime my guitar goes out of tune and someone points it out, I just tell them it's the Neil Young influence. I'm like, hey, that's just Neil Young. It's his influence creeping in. That's all it is. So yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of crazy things. Yeah, he was. Neil Young was known as the godfather of grunge, and was just he's one of my biggest influences. I first discovered Neil Young through Leonard Skinner. Obviously, growing up here in the South, we listen to Southern music, and I love Leonard Skinner, the original band. The Ronnie Van Zant years Ronnie Van Zant's one of my biggest heroes. But when I heard Sweet Home Alabama, I didn't have the same reaction that a lot of people had. When I heard him say, I heard Mr. Young sing about her, and I heard old Neil put her down. I was like, okay, what'd he say? What did Neil Young say about it? I wasn't ready to go off and, wage war on the guy or cancel him. I wanted to know what Neil Young had to say. And then when I went and listened to his song, Southern Man in Alabama, I was like, well, where's the lie at? As Officer Tatum would say, where's the lie? It was like, he's telling the truth. I mean, I understood Ronnie Van Zant's sentiment of like, well, you're a Canadian telling us that. I understand that as a Southerner, more so than people may understand. That may be hard for people in other parts of the world to understand, but there is this sentiment here in the South, and I think Donald Trump definitely cashed in on it, but there's this sentiment that people are talking down to us. There always has been that, and it doesn't matter how far to the left you lean, it's just bred in you to think that people are talking down to you. And so I could understand why he would write it that way, but at the same time, when I heard Neil Young. I was like, damn, he's right. And then when I dove into his catalog, it's like, how can you not love it? It was just, I mean, all those classic songs, like Powderfinger and like, Hey, Hey, My, and Cortez the Killer, After the Gold Rush. I mean, there's so many great ones. And actually, a lot of people, I piss off a lot of rednecks when I tell this story, but, Neil Young actually sent 3 songs to Leonard Skinner to record. Powderfinger was one of them. I think Sedan Delivery was the other one. I don't remember what the third one was. But he actually sent them songs to record. They became friends. He sent them songs to record. They were going to, but they didn't feel like that any of those songs fit the Street Survivors album they made, which is the last album the original band made. So they didn't put it on. They didn't put them on Street Survivors, but they had them in the tank, and was going to record one in the future. So we would have heard Leonard Skinner covering Neil Young, and that would have been pretty cool. But Neil Young was an honorary pallbearer at Ronnie Van Zant's funeral. Ronnie Van Zant was buried in a Neil Young shirt, and the night that the Skinner plane crashed and Neil Young learned about it, or the night after, whichever way it was, he went on stage in the middle of his song Alabama. He switched and he went into Sweet Home Alabama. So there was a mutual respect between the two for their disagreement. And I think a lot of people misinterpreted that feud. I'd be playing in bars years ago, and I would bust into a Skinner tune, and then all of a sudden I'm playing, Cinnamon Girl with Neil Young, or Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, and people's like, wait a minute, why are you playing Neil Young songs? I'm like, you can like both. You can appreciate both. And so, yeah, Neil Young is just a massive, massive influence. Old Man, yeah, that's one of my favorites. But I think one of his most underutilized songs, I always loved Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. I don't know what it is about that tune that I just really loved. But and Neil Young always just had the balls to say whatever. Neil Young did not get the memo to shut up and sing. And I love that about him. I was always drawn to that. What's funny is, like, the music I was drawn to growing up, I was drawn to the music that called shit out. I was drawn to the Neil Youngs and the Bob Dylans. And even when it comes to Leonard Skinner, yeah, I could listen to Give Me 3 Steps all day long or something. That's fine. But I like the songs where he called out the establishment, and his song Working for MCA, I always thought that was such a ballsy song, because they got a record deal, and they play the album release party, and they write a song called Working for MCA, and in the song he says, I'll sign this contract, but I want you people to know that every penny I make, I better see where my money goes. I mean, that's ballsy as hell to be standing there, a poor dude from the bad side of Jacksonville, and you got the balls to tell him, you better not screw me over. I've always been attracted to music that rocked the boat. That's why I gravitated toward Neil Young, and I gravitated toward Bob Dylan, and I gravitated toward songwriters, that rocked the boat and challenged the status quo. And I don't understand. Like, I cannot for the life of me get into this patriotic country music bullshit they do today. It's just so over the top ridiculous to me. And there's a lot of the old timers that let me down over the years, like people like Charlie Daniels. I loved his albums when I was growing up, and then near the end of his life, he just kind of turned into the very kind of guy that I think he would have hated in the '70s. That was kind of sad to see, but I can separate things up, and I can say, hey, the dude did make some classic albums once upon a time before he, went over here and became a lost ball in high weeds. but yeah, I could talk all day about Neil Young, and that is John Prine behind me, by the way. That picture's been pretty much hanging with me from the start, and so I'm going to be moving here soon. I'm still staying around the same part of the world, but I'll have to take that picture with me, because it's been with me when I started back on TikTok doing the videos there. I just had this, I don't know, I just decided to put some stuff behind me on the wall, and John Prine ended up behind me, and he was another massive influence, and another person that didn't care to rock the boat, with songs like Your Flag Decal Won't Get You into Heaven Anymore, and songs like Jesus the Missing Years. That's probably my favorite John Prine tune. People ask me all the time, what's your favorite Prine tune, and it's really hard to pick one, but I guess if you twisted my arm behind my back, it would probably be Jesus the Missing Years. But because I've always been fascinated by that too. I've always been fascinated by the missing years in the life of Jesus. If you read the Bible, they talk about him when he's like 12 years old preaching in the temple, and then he doesn't appear until he's 30. And so that John Prine makes a joke, and it's classic. If you can find the version where he did it live on Austin City Limits, he says, that he was talking to a guy one time at a party, and they got talking about the missing years of Jesus, and he said that they said no one knew where he was from the time he was 12 till the time he was 30. And John Prine said, I just thought about that. How could this dude, who was one of the most controversial and influential figures in the history of mankind, how could that guy disappear for all that time and not be noticed? He's like, because I took a fishing trip one time with the waitress, and when I got back to Nashville 2 days later, everybody knew where we went. So, yeah, that's one of my favorite. And that live version from Austin City Limits is great. If you get a chance, check it out. But yeah, he was a former mailman, and I thought that was super cool. John Prine was just a treasure. And we lost him back right at the start of the pandemic, and man, that just broke my heart. I never will forget that. That was a horrible, horrible day. But yeah, I want to thank you guys so much. Yes, I do love Billy Strings. I'm envious of his guitar ability. I've never been able to pick that fast, but if when I bust out an electric guitar, I sound like Gary Rossiter and Dickie Betts. And I have to talk about Dickie Betts if we're going to talk about music for a minute. I have to talk about Dickie Betts from the Allman Brothers, because I don't know, if I made my Mount Rushmore of guitar players, you could always put the ones on there that's obviously, when people makes their Mount Rushmores of anything, it's like, okay, you could make a Mount Rushmore based on someone's contribution to guitar playing, and then someone like Jimi Hendrix would automatically have to be on it. Guys like Chuck Berry, they would just sort of have to be there. But when I talk Mount Rushmores, I just basically talk about my personal favorites, the ones that just absolutely moved me to want to play a guitar. And it was Gary Rossington from Skinner, it was Dickie Betts from the Allman Brothers, it was J.J. Cale. The number 4 spot on my Mount Rushmore would probably, just for influence of my guitar style, would be, I'd probably have to go with David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. I know I'm going to think about somebody here in just a minute. But I was actually out in California, and I was actually under the Golden Gate Bridge when I realized that Dickie Betts died. And I didn't even say anything. I didn't even, I was just like, because I remember discovering the Allman Brothers for the very first time. One of these days I'll have to do like a members only video and show you guys, but my aunt gave me a record player. It's one of those old Zenith record players. Looks like a piece of furniture. You lift the lid up. And back when I was a kid, I would go down in her basement. She would have pool parties back when I was growing up. All the kids would go over to her house because she had an in-ground pool. All the kids would go over to her house, and they would all, swim. Well, I'm fair-skinned. I was a redhead, believe it or not, back when I was a kid, and so I sunburned really easily. So I would be out in the sun, and if I got out in the sun too long, I'd go down in her basement. She had pool tables and ping pong tables and that record player. And I remember, putting the Allman Brothers on that record player and hearing them for the first time. And for some reason, I mainly remember Ramblin' Man, which is a Dickie Betts tune, and I remember Midnight Rider. Those are the 2 hits that I think played the most in that basement. But then when I got up, started playing guitar, like everybody around me, when I started learning how to play guitar, it was the mid-90s. And so a lot of the kids my age was playing grunge and heavy metal. And then the teenagers that was older than us, they were playing 80s rock and trying to shred. So the few guitar players that I did get around and got to be around, they could play fast as lightning. And I never was able to play that fast, I never could do it. My hands would never, I could never, I respect the hell out of Eddie Van Halen, but I could never make my hands do that. And so I heard the Allman Brothers, and that style that Dickie Betts did was so melodic. It's like you could almost sing his leads, His leads was like, I can't whistle, but it's like his leads could be whistled, or they could just be sung. And I may get a copyright claim, and they may mute this little section of the video, but that's what happens. And I've even had it, what's funny, I've even had, like on my original songs, I've had copyright claims appear that said it was a song by somebody else, and it's not even similar to the song. It's kind of ridiculous how it works, but they may mute this when people plays it back, but you'll see it live. But just that melodic style of Jessica, just that little, that style, I just gravitated toward that because it was like, I can do that. I can figure out where that's at on the fretboard. And when you listen to songs like that, you listen to Blue Sky, of course, Ramblin' Man, that's a classic. And there's a live version on YouTube where he's playing outdoors somewhere in Georgia or Florida, and he absolutely, I mean, he puts everybody to shame on that one. But I'm trying to think of some more. In Memory of Elizabeth Reed is another big one. And his solo work was great too. Dickie Betts was, like I said, he was on my Mount Rushmore, and I just shared a picture of him and said rest in peace, and didn't talk a lot about it because I really couldn't. It was one that hit real close to home because that guy, he was one of the reasons him and Rossington was why I wanted a Les Paul. One of these days, I'll just have to do maybe a members only video where I show some of my electric guitars, and we'll play some covers, and if we get hit with the copyright claims, so be it. But yeah, man, and I've ripped off Dickie Betts so much in the music I've written. Anytime I've ever took a lead on one of my albums, I'm somewhere channeling Dickie Betts, and I've had a few people point it out. Sometimes it was a little bit more obvious than others, but he was up there for me, and it's to see those legends pass away like that. It's just I don't know. That's the hardest part to me about getting old. I don't give a shit about, the aches and pains and the wrinkles and stuff like that. Um, I just hate seeing the generation that come before us go, and I hate seeing the ones that inspired us go. And he's kind of one of the last, he was really one of the last hanger oners. I think JMO's still alive. But Greg Allman passed away back in 2017, and Butch Trucks passed away, I think, a little few years later. But I named my youngest son after Barry Oakley, the bass player. My youngest son's name's Oakley, and it's not after the sunglasses. It's after Barry Oakley, who I think was the greatest bass player ever. I mean, um, God, if you listen to Barry Oakley, that intro on Whip and Post, and then if you listen to him on Dreams, he was a hell of a singer too. But man, that bass line on Dreams. Not to advocate for anything, but if you're ever, if you're ever tripping, you'll understand the Allman Brothers music. And Dreams has just got such a hypnotic bass line. I can so see how they saw you know, I definitely understand their music. But I appreciate you guys for being here. And yeah, Tom Petty is another one that went way too soon. And what's so sad about Tom Petty is that I just always assumed he would be here. That's the mistake I made. And I always had it on my bucket list to go see Tom Petty. I thought for sure I would see him. I never dreamed that I wouldn't. And then he went, and it was just like, damn. But I know that I had seen, Dickie Betts had some health issues, I think. I had seen sometimes where he was having some difficulty playing, but then he would get better. But he was one of the last of a true dying breed, and just a hellacious guitar player. And he got a lot of his influence from Django Reinhardt. Because Django Reinhardt was missing his ring finger. So Django Reinhardt played everything with two fingers, and that's why Jessica could be done. He did it to where you could. He did it to where you could play it with two fingers. That was him channeling Django Reinhardt. So, yeah. But man, I really appreciate you guys for being here with me and hanging in here. We got a hell of a crowd in here, and it's so funny, guys. I have to be honest with you. I went from doing this at my kitchen table. Started doing these lives back during the pandemic when all the music, when all the gigs shut down. I'd played music for 25 years, and I know a lot of people still don't even know that about me because I'm always talking politics these days. But I spent my whole life as a traveling musician, just going around playing from town to town and just doing my thing, writing my songs. But when the pandemic happened, it really made me stop and look at everything different. I think everybody rethought everything and rethought where they was in their life. And around that time, I started doing these live streams, playing my songs at the table, and then I started doing I took a DJ gig for a little while, DJing some music on an internet radio station out of Knoxville. It's no longer around, but I wish it still was. Had a lot of fun doing that. Had my own show on there and would play local Knoxville, Tennessee music and East Tennessee music. I had a great time. Invited a lot of guests on. A lot of times we do over the phone interviews, stuff like that. But I think the pandemic definitely made us all kind of change our outlook on a lot of things and look at the world a little bit differently. And I just remember kind of thinking, like, okay, we're not guaranteed tomorrow, and Do I want to go out on a bar stool singing a Skinner cover for the millionth time to people who are going to be so drunk they're not going to remember it the next day? Or do I want to talk about the issues at hand? And do I want to talk about things that matter? And, I sat down in a chair out in the yard and I reacted to that album right there on the wall. That's Tyler Childers' Long Violent History. He put that album out. It's an all fiddle album except for the very last song. It's called Long Violent History. And he talks about the racial tension in the country. And he talked about, it was influenced by George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, things like that. And when he put that album out, he's from Southeast Kentucky. And when he put that album out, everybody in my part of the world went nuts. He's woke. We're never going back to see Tyler again, blah, blah, blah. And I just typed out a big long-winded Facebook post, one of those that I know no one would have scrolled to the end to read. And then I said to myself, nobody's going to read that, and I just deleted it. But then I just kept sitting there going, I wanted to say that. And so I just sat down and made a video out in the lawn chair and put it up on YouTube, didn't think nothing about it. Next thing I know, it's blowing up. And then people start saying to me, you should be talking more. And okay, well, let's talk a little bit more. And then I made another one and it happened, another one had happened. And then here we are. And it's crazy. I went from playing to like 15 to 20 people to 2,294. So I really appreciate y'all for being here with me and supporting what I do. And I appreciate the ones that was able to hang with me through it all. For the ones that was here from the start, I truly appreciate you because there's a lot of people, I ain't going to lie to you. I lost a whole lot of friends, and that's okay because, again, I'd rather talk about the issues that I believe in. This isn't a gimmick to me. It's not an act. I mean what I say. This is the hill I chose to die on. And so if people can't separate that, then they're free to leave, Like I said earlier, I would never want to have a political conversation with Hank Williams Jr. Like I would not want to have a political conversation with that dude. But I will say to the end of time that Whiskey Bent and Hellbound is one of the greatest country music albums ever made, and that would be on my Mount Rushmore of country music albums. It's a masterpiece. But I can separate those things up, and I can say that hey, the guy made a masterpiece. Some people can't. Some people can't do it, and they tune out, and that's okay. You know, it's if you can't separate it up and you have to walk away. If you used to sit and watch me play in a dive bar somewhere, and now you can't stand to hear me because I'm singing Downwind to Donnie, hey, go on. It's free country. I'm not going to come after you and cancel you. I'm not going to come out. I'm not going to try to boycott you. I'm not going to do none of those things. You can cancel and boycott me all day long. I don't give a fuck. I'm perfectly content right here where I'm at. And so I appreciate everybody that's hanging with me, all the ones that's come on. I want to give a special shout out. We got a few more minutes here in the show, but I definitely want to give a special shout out to the members, everyone that's joined the memberships. Really appreciate that. I did do a members only video under the Golden Gate Bridge, and I really should have went live while I was in California. That's one of my big regrets is that I didn't go live at one point. But to be honest with you, I felt like Jake Clampett out there. I really did. I just felt like I was just soaking it in, and I took a lot of pictures, but at the same time I didn't because I was just too busy just soaking everything up. And so you know, yeah, I should have definitely went live, but I did do a members only video under the Golden Gate Bridge and kind of walked around and showed people. So be sure to check that out. And if you've not become a member, we do have the 3 different tiers, and check out which one works for you. And again, I know times are tough and we're all struggling to get by. And I'm not here asking for your money, but for those of you that do want to become a member, and I want to say thanks to the ones that have gifted the memberships. I really appreciate that. That always helps grow it. I'll do a lot of members only content on there, and I'll release the videos. The members see them first. That's one of the perks is that the members see the videos first. And so again, I really appreciate you guys so much for being here with me. It's been a good time. We'll keep going for a little while longer. I usually been doing the shows at about an hour, so we got about 10 more minutes. If anybody has any questions, wants to throw them at me, I'll try my best to catch them. I'm recording this episode on my phone, so sometimes the questions are a little bit hard to grab. But if I see one out of the blue, I'll try to grab it. But yeah, I definitely did enjoy the trip, and Well, next time I got to take my guitar. It's just that, yes, I did make it to the ocean. I got to see the Pacific. That was really cool. You want to hear me do the Tennessee Stud? That can happen. Hey, and T for Texas, T for Tennessee is the very first song I ever sang in front of a crowd. I was 19 years old. My very first gig, I sang T for Texas, T for Tennessee, kind of in the style of Leonard Skinner. So, yeah, that was my very first song I ever sung in front of an audience. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget. I was like so nervous. Um, I go up on stage. I'm 19 years old. My bandmates are in their teenage years too. There might have been one in his early 20s, but like there we are, and I'm nervous as shit. I've never sang in front of a crowd, and I was always the quiet kid in school. Like I was the kid that went to the library and read on his lunch break. I was that kid, and so the kid that just kind of stood in the corner and didn't say shit to nobody and hoped the day would end. The kid that sat on the back of the bus and looked out the window, don't sit by me. I was that guy, and so. There was people came to that first show just because there's no way you're going to sing in front of a crowd, and I just remember my mouth was dry as chalk, and I was nervous as hell. But I took a couple of, believe it or not, I took a couple of shots of Southern Comfort of all things. I don't know who had it or why. That's a terrible idea, but I took a couple of shots of Southern Comfort, walked on stage, and the minute I went, give me T for Texas, give me T for Tennessee, it's like the nerves just went away, and I was in my element, and never looked back. Been doing it ever since. But yeah, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. I haven't made it down to LA yet, but I'm sure that it is huge. Um, I'm glad you got good memories with Southern Comfort. I don't. all I can all I can say is it's not too bad going down. But see, like when I was a teenager back then, doing that, you know, when that was back too during like the Zima years. You guys remember Zimas? It's back when you're first starting to learn how to drink, and you try to get something that just kind of tastes good. And so Southern Comfort to me tastes like this cough syrup the doctor used to give me back when I was a kid. But I made the mistake of just drinking the whole bottle like it was a beer, and so I don't have good memories of Southern Comfort for that reason. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys being here with me. It is cough syrup. I mean, it tasted exactly like the kind that my doctor gave me growing up. Um, but I appreciate you guys too. Thank you so much for being here. Now Zimas weren't bad. I mean, I remember putting the Jolly. Did y'all put the Jolly Ranchers in them? Because I can definitely remember that. Uh, they made a comeback too for a little while around here anyway. All of a sudden, Zimas came back. I had to buy one just for nostalgia. But yeah, so I really appreciate you guys being here. Um, but yeah, you guys got any questions? Toss them at me. Before we go, I'll try to catch one as it goes by. Um, if you go to my channel and just hit the join button, hit the join button, and then you'll see the memberships pop up, and you'll see what the perks are. I think it's $2.99 for the first level, $6.99 for the second, and $24.99 for the third. Just pick which one that you like the best. See how you like it. Try it out and see. I really appreciate it. I've never been to Austin, Texas. No, I toured playing music out there, and I went through Amarillo, and I went down to Lubbock. Um, but I've never been to Austin. Do I have any pets? Yeah, I got two dogs. I have a bloodhound named Boyd Crowder, and I have a basset hound named Gus Fring. I named them after fictional drug dealers. So then I have three goats. Maggie, Merle, and Sadie are my three goats. So yeah. I didn't win the Appy Award. Jess won for the best graphics, and I was so glad that she did. But I didn't. No, I didn't win the Appy. I think it was Keisha Royce won it, I believe. But I've been nominated four times. I've always been nominated, um, but I've not made it over the finish line yet. This is a Ibanez, and I picked this up at a Guitar Center. It was believe it or not, this guitar. I think I ended up paying I didn't pay but like $300 for it because it had a scratch on the back. If you see the scratch right here, I was trying this guitar out, and the guy said, "I got one. It's like $100 cheaper if you'll go back. It's in the scratch and dent section." And he came and brought it to me, and I was like, "Well, hell, I'm going to put enough scratches on it," because at the time I was playing on a lot of dive bars like the Mustang Lounge in Tazewell, Tennessee. So, you know, flying beer bottles weren't out of the question. So I was like, I'm probably going to put scars on it, and I did over the years. So there's that. But now the join button would be if you went to my YouTube channel. You probably won't be able to see it from right here. But if you just went to my channel and looked there, you'll see it underneath the videos. You'll see like subscribe, hit like, you'll see a little notification bell. There'll be the word join. Just check that out. Blue Ridge guitars are awesome. I got a buddy of mine has one of those, and man, it's a sweet playing guitar. It really is. When will I be coming through New York? I have no idea. I'd love to. I've never seen New York. I've been to Washington D.C., but I've never been to. I've always the New York Northeast too has always been on my bucket list. I've just not made it there yet. So yeah, really appreciate you guys for being here. Welcome to the new members. Thank y'all for joining. Oh God, I love the Amazing Rhythm Aces. They're one of my favorites. And like I said, one of these days maybe we'll just do it all. Maybe we'll just do a cover show and say to hell with the copyrights and not worry about it. We won't have to monetize everything. I've only been to Vegas one time. Would love to come back though. But yeah, I love the Amazing Rhythm Aces. Russell Smith is one of my favorite songwriters. Me and my band always played "The End Is Not in Sight." That's my favorite, and of course you got to play "Third Rate Romance." Also, "Amazing Grace" used to be her favorite song. That dude was such a good songwriter. Flying Burrito Brothers, yes, I love them. Graham Parson, Chris Hillman. That Gilded Palace of Sin album is one of my favorite albums of all time. My thoughts on RFK Jr. Well, man, he is just a real disappointment to the Kennedy name. It's I really hate to see him buying into the conspiracy theories, and I really feel like that he's just sort of put there to muddy the water and distort things, and yeah, he's been pretty disappointing to me because I always admired the Kennedys, and his own family has came out against him, so yeah, it's definitely. I have been to Asheville quite a few times. I love Asheville; it's a cool town. I have played in Georgia. Um, but yeah, I'll tell you what. And you're right. I think every family has an RFK Jr. I know I do. So we've all got them. Um, but yeah, Russell Smith was a treasure. He really was. I love Warren Haynes, Derek Truck, Susan Tedeschi. I love that. I'm an Allman Brothers junkie. I've got some Allman Brothers art tattooed on my arm here. That's the mushrooms from one of their shirts that I had. I'm a diehard Allman Brothers fan. All that music, and Derek Trucks, man, he's such a great guitar player. But I'll be honest with you, he's so good he makes me sick. It's like he is so good that it's like, how could a human being be that good? But yeah, I've never played in Florida. I've visited a time or two, but I've never played it. Actually, I take that back. Well, I didn't really play it. I think I got up at an open mic night once in Florida, but I didn't. I wasn't booked. But yeah, Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Yeah, I've played there quite a bit. I'll tell you what I'll do, folks. I will take you out with a tune that I wrote, and then we'll come back and wrap it up. But I want to thank you guys so much for being here. I was talking earlier about how I started doing these shows at the table back during the pandemic, and I had my traditional little laughing Buddha statue that was sitting on the table, and he just stuck. I decided to let this little baby Buddha be on the table today. I picked him up out in California. Again, shout out to my good friends Kim and Alan. Kim bought one too while we were out there, and I'll have to share the picture on YouTube of the two Buddhas we got. But this one just looks so elated. I had to get him. But I'll tell you the story behind my original Laughing Buddha. For those of you that have never heard it, back in 2017, I'd been going through a pretty hard breakup, and all through 2016 it was bad, and then going into 17, I'm still in the middle of it. It's still fresh. And I was over hanging out with a friend of mine, and we were partaking in some things. And I don't know exactly what word I can use on YouTube, but we were partaking in the stuff that made the Grateful Dead see the teddy bears. Okay, so anyway, we're just sitting there, having a good night, and came back in the house, and she had a little Buddha statue on the dresser, and he was just smiling away. And I picked him up, and I just started laughing. I was like, man, this guy looks happy, and I got cracked up about it. Well, my friend said, what's so funny about my Buddha? I said, he looks really happy, and she said, he is happy. I said, I've never seen. I said, any picture I've ever seen of Jesus Christ, he always looks really stoic. He looks kind of miserable. I mean, a lot of times he's strung up. I was like, you never see Jesus smiling like this. And I just made a joke. I said, maybe I've been talking to the wrong guy. And so uh, the next morning when I went to leave, my friend gave me that walking Buddha statue, and she said, I think you need it more than me. And but she said, because that's the most I've ever seen you laugh, most I've ever seen you smile. And she said, I think you need him more than I do. And so I started collecting them. I've got them sitting all over the house and out in the yard. And so when I went to California, I had to bring the little baby home with me. And so he gets the table for the day. But this is called the Laughing Buddha. Get that string back in tune. It's cold in here. Close. In the words of Neil Young, perfect. Buddha sat on her dresser with a Jimmy Carter smile. She said to rub his belly for good luck. You're gonna need it for a while. Come to think, when I've seen Buddha, he's got a glassy-eyed grin. Unlike the guy from my raising, he was always dying for sin. Jesus sat on the mantel. He had such a stoic face. He looked miserable above the altar and strung out at Grandma's place. And even knocking on my door, he had a sad look in his eye. Kinda got me thinking maybe I've been talking to the wrong guy. What I've done unto others, they nearly done me in. I turned the other cheek and they tried to cave it in. And I laid down my life for people who would not go a mile for me. So Jesus, if you're listening, I hope somehow you see. I can't carry the cross no longer. I can't live with nail-scarred hands. And I can't die for people who don't try to understand. And it is not my place to bear the sword in vain. I gotta be the laughing Buddha before I go insane. I'm no preacher, I'm no teacher. I don't have the answers yet. I'm not a savior, I'm no healer. I'm just a poet with a pen. And I ain't gonna let them string me up just to serve as their own fate. When they ask you how they lost control, you can tell them that I'm awake. And I've done unto others, they nearly done me in. I turned the other cheek and they tried to cave it in. And I laid down my life for people who would not go a mile for me. So Jesus, if you're listening, I hope somehow you see. I can't carry the cross no longer. I can't live with nail-scarred hands. And I can't die for people who don't care to understand. And it is not my place to carry guilt and shame. I gotta be the laughing Buddha before I go insane. I better be the laughing Buddha or I just might go insane. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you for sticking with me here. Hope everyone had a good time. I'm going to try to get back to doing these on a regular basis, but where I was planning the trip out to California, I kind of got sidetracked with a lot of stuff, and I'm going to be moving here pretty soon, so I got a lot going on. But one of these days, I'll have to do the last episode here, so we'll do that. There'll definitely be the last video out in the yard, so there's that. But I really appreciate you guys for being with me. Again, shout out to all the members, and if you've not checked them out, go over and give them a, check them out and see what you like. Try it out if you like it. If you like it, stick with it. If you don't, don't. That's I'm not here. I'm not here selling Bibles to you. So I really appreciate all of you. Yeah, and I'm not moving but like 10 minutes down the road. I'm not going far. I stayed in the same county because my kids are going to school here, and I didn't want them to have to change schools. So we're not going too far. But yeah, I do appreciate everyone, and shout out to the Midas Mighty and the Midas Touch Network. Everyone there, those guys have been such a huge help to me, and helped to grow this channel and helped to learn me the ropes of. They learned me. That's how we say it in the South. They learned me how to use YouTube. So I really appreciate them for that. And you guys have a great night, and I'll try to see you again next Friday. So you guys hang in there.